Most homes don't fail because of the disaster itself. They're going to fail because of what happens after that disaster. The lights go out.
Oh no!
Or the water stops.
Oh no, your water stopped.
Or your heating or cooling goes away.
But it's so cold.
Or other things like communication or trash removal or basic comfort and routine, or even, heaven forbid, you need an ambulance. These things are going to be strained during an emergency or disaster. And are you and your home ready to handle it? We're about to find out.
We're about to find out, is it?
Stockpiling actually gives people a little false sense of security, and let me explain. Hey everyone, Morgan and A here. We're going to call her A. Kid A. Kid E and Kid O are both sleeping. Today we're talking about how most homes aren't failing loudly, they're failing quietly. That it's through exhaustion or confusion or small problems keep stacking up because, oh, I didn't test that gear, or, oh, I have this food, but I have no idea how to eat it, right? So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Is your home really prepared? Do you just have a bunch of stuff? So what actually fails first in an emergency in your home?
Water access.
Yeah, so water access, not just for drinking, but for washing hands, or if you want to flush your toilets, or basic hygiene. And I say if you want to flush your toilets because I always say you should make that bucket compost toilet so that you don't have to use precious water on flushing toilets. But lots of people stock up water just for gray water and flushing toilets. So that's totally up to you. Next.
Lighted.
Darkness changes everything, especially during winter time when there's a lot more darkness, okay? People panic. Injuries can happen more often. Lighting is super important. Don't just have lighting from your phone because you may need your phone or it may die. Have lots of other lighting. Lanterns that are rechargeable or with batteries have lots of battery backups, as well as having candles and other sources of lighting.
Heating and cooling.
That's right. So heating and cooling will be things like this buddy heater. This is safe for indoor use. Of course, if you want to crack a window, you can. You can also have a wood stove, of course, if you have a fireplace. You can get a tent. You know, when we play forts and we have the blankets, you know, in small spaces, boy, it warms up in there super fast with your body heats, okay? Get some emergency blankets, 0-degree sleeping bags for the warmth. And then for the cooling, you could have lots of fans. And I would always recommend blackout curtains. These are blackout curtains right here for summer or winter. They help in both circumstances. But like the sun is always shining bright in this window and it makes it really warm in here very fast. So
communication.
Something like these radios, our kids know how to use radios. We practice with them all the time. We have a communication plan. We have an emergency disaster plan that talks about alternative communication options. Your phone is great. We use our phone all the time, and texting and calling may be an option, or the cell towers could be so overwhelmed by the emergency or disaster that you're just not going to be able to get through. So have alternative radios, alternative communication plans, or a no communication plan where you simply have a plan that says, hey, you're going to go here in case of this, that, and this. And these are our safety words and all this stuff. I have all this at our website, by the way, at preparedness.com.
Routine.
Yes, so we have kids, if you have pets, and then there's sleeping and meals and entertainment and, you know, all this stuff. So even during the crisis, unless you're actually dealing with the crisis, you still want some semblance of normalcy. Kids, even yourself, we all thrive on that sort of normalcy. We want to know where we're sleeping, where we're getting our next meal, you know, that comfort and security. So have that stuff available because it's just as important as having all this stuff. When we say stuff, you know, a lot of people have stuff stockpiled and they have it stuffed away, or they don't rotate their food and water, or they don't practice with their gear. Have your stuff readily available. Know how and when to use those items and rotate through it, okay? Actually use the batteries. This is not just here for emergency disasters. We use these batteries all the time and we get new ones and rotate. We also have rechargeable batteries with battery backups that we have. We have a whole bunch of things and we use our battery backups during emergencies, but we also take them camping and all this other stuff, right? Real preparedness isn't extreme. It's quiet and it can be a little boring, especially when you're really prepared. Okay. Alternative cooking is also really important. Something like this Coleman grill is a really good idea, but you have a lot of food, so let's go ahead and find ways and alternative ways of cooking with that food. And don't forget on stocking up on the fuel like propane or wood or anything you might need for your alternative cooking options. First aid is also extremely important. There's tons of first aid and hygiene items that you're going to need for your home. You want to be able to take care of things like little boo-boos like this. Something more extreme, like you might need the Jace case, which are emergency antibiotics. Be sure to have at least 30 days of over-the-counter medications as well. So ask these questions. So 1, how will you get light when it's dark? 2, how will you access water if it stops flowing? Even if you have a well, do you have solar or a hand pump? How will you stay warm or cool in one room? It's recommended that you try to cool or heat one room instead of the entire house, because trying to cool or heat one room in an emergency or disaster without, the entire house being, piped or not piped, whatever, made for that, then you want to cool or heat one room, like with the tent or with blankets or in a 0-degree bag, with the buddy heater in that one room, etc. How are you going to communicate and get updates? You don't always have to transmit information, but at least being able to listen and know how to use the radio to be able to listen to local news, local people talking about what's happening in the area. That's vital information. And then what keeps your house calm? You can be the center of the storm, but also you, because you're a prepper, have ways and things to help be that center of the storm, to help keep that normalcy, to help keep the routine and have nice, warm, comforting meals and meals that are familiar, okay? Don't be giving beans and rice if you don't eat beans and rice. That's gonna make things unfamiliar. It's gonna cause a lot of stress and anxiety during an emergency or disaster, okay? So make things as easy on yourself as possible. Prepared homes don't feel dramatic. They don't feel out of control. You're in control. And here's the best part. You're not fixing these things all at once. You're fixing it one failure point at a time. So I have a 1-page worksheet for you to go through and check a mark. Okay, I have these things for heating and cooling. I have these things for alternative cooking. I have these things for water. I have these things for food, okay? I have these things for comfort and security, okay? So I have the whole 1-page checklist for you to go check out. Preparedness is not about fear, okay? It's about just being prepared for the everyday emergency disasters. There's no end of the world necessary. I mean, it might happen, but it's not necessary. Comment down below with how prepared you feel your home and family is for an emergency or disaster. Thank y'all so much for watching. Conquer tomorrow by preparing today. Thanks to my helper, Kid A. We will talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.